Every night, something happens inside your skull that sounds more like science fiction than biology. While you're completely unconscious, your brain cells physically shrink. Channels you can't see open up between them, and a tide of fluid begins washing through your brain tissue, carrying away the toxic debris of an entire day's worth of thinking. For decades, doctors had no idea this was happening. They knew every other organ in your body has a built-in cleanup crew, a lymphatic system that drains waste into your bloodstream. But when scientists looked for the same kind of drainage network in the brain, they found nothing. No vessels, no pipes, nothing. So how does the most metabolically demanding organ in your body, one that burns through roughly 20% of your daily energy, deal with its own garbage? Let's start with why there's garbage in the first place. Your neurons are constantly firing electrical signals, and that takes fuel. Just like a car engine produces exhaust, your brain cells produce metabolic byproducts as they burn through energy. Over the course of a normal day, this waste slowly builds up in the spaces between your cells. Most of it is harmless in small amounts, but if it keeps accumulating without being cleared, it becomes a problem. Think of your brain like a kitchen during a dinner party. The longer the party goes on, the more dishes pile up in the sink. Someone has to wash them eventually, or the whole kitchen becomes unusable. For a long time, this was where the trail went cold for researchers. The brain is wrapped in a tough barrier that keeps most things out, including immune cells and lymphatic vessels. So how could it possibly flush itself? Then, in 2012, a research team made a discovery that changed everything. They found a hidden network of microscopic channels running alongside the brain's blood vessels, channels that could carry fluid deep into brain tissue and sweep waste back out. Because this system worked like the lymphatic system, but used cells called glia to do it, they named it the glymphatic system. It was hiding in plain sight the entire time. But here's the part that makes this discovery so strange. This cleanup system barely works while you're awake. It switches on dramatically during deep sleep. This is where things get genuinely fascinating. During the deepest stage of sleep, known as slow-wave sleep, your brain enters an almost completely different physical state. Brain cells in the spaces around them actually grow larger, which allows cerebrospinal fluid to flow more efficiently and makes it easier for the system to clear out waste. At the same time, a stress-related chemical called norepinephrine drops sharply, and this chemical shift relaxes the glymphatic vessels, opening the floodgates for fluid exchange. Picture your brain cells during the day as a crowded subway car at rush hour, packed tightly together with barely any room to move. At night, during deep sleep, everyone takes a step back. Suddenly there's space to walk through the car, space for cleaning crews to come through and do their work. The fluid doing the actual cleaning is cerebrospinal fluid, the clear liquid that surrounds your brain and spinal cord. During deep sleep, this fluid doesn't just sit there. Researchers using a device that continuously measured sleep-related changes in brain tissue found that this clearance process actually speeds up the longer a person stays asleep, then gradually slows as they wake up. It's almost like the system needs time to ramp up, like a washing machine slowly filling and agitating before it really gets to work. Making this entire process possible are star-shaped support cells called astrocytes. These cells have tiny doorways on their surface, called aquaporin 4 water channels. And these channels are essentially the gates that let cerebrospinal fluid flood into brain tissue and push waste products back out into the bloodstream, where your body can dispose of them. These channels are concentrated specifically on the parts of astrocytes that wrap around blood vessels, positioning them perfectly to control this nightly flow. So, what exactly is being washed away? Among the substances researchers are most interested in are two proteins called beta amyloid and tau. You may have heard these names before because they're closely associated with Alzheimer's disease. Here's the important nuance. Scientists are not claiming that a good night's sleep prevents Alzheimer's. What they are exploring is something more specific. After sleep deprivation, both animals and humans show increased levels of beta amyloid in the brain, and disrupting the slow waves of deep sleep appears to be enough to stop this waste clearance process entirely. Researchers are actively studying whether impaired waste clearance over many years might be one contributing factor, among many others, in how these proteins accumulate over a lifetime. It's worth pausing here, because this is still an evolving area of science. Not every researcher agrees on exactly how this fluid moves or how significant it is in humans. Some recent studies have proposed that simple diffusion, rather than a directed flow of fluid, might explain much of how waste actually moves through brain tissue. And this has sparked real debate within the field. What almost everyone agrees on, though, is that something important changes in the brain during deep sleep, and that this something matters for how your brain functions the next day. Which brings us to what happens when this nightly cleanup gets interrupted, night after night. The effects aren't dramatic or frightening, but they're noticeable. People who consistently get poor quality deep sleep often report brain fog, a kind of mental haze that makes it harder to focus. Concentration suffers. Learning new information becomes more difficult because your brain didn't get the maintenance window it needed to reset. Memory can feel less sharp. Mood can shift, with people feeling more irritable or flat. None of this means anything catastrophic is happening overnight. It's more like driving a car that's overdue for an oil change. It'll still run, but not as smoothly as it could. So what can you actually do to support this process? The research points to some surprisingly simple habits. Keeping a consistent sleep and wake time, even on weekends, helps your brain anticipate and prepare for deep sleep cycles. Getting sunlight exposure in the morning helps regulate the internal clock that governs when deep sleep happens. Regular physical activity during the day is linked to more time spent in deep sleep at night. Your bedroom environment matters too. Maintaining good sleep hygiene, regular exercise, and avoiding substances that disrupt sleep quality may help optimize this waste clearing process. And a cool, dark room supports the kind of uninterrupted sleep this system seems to need. Cutting off caffeine in the afternoon and reducing alcohol before bed both help protect the deep sleep stages where this cleanup is most active. And dimming bright screens in the hour before bed can make it easier to fall into those deeper stages in the first place. So when you think about sleep, it's worth reconsidering what's actually happening. It's not simply your body powering down for the night. It's your brain running one of its most important maintenance operations, quietly washing away the residue of everything you thought, felt, and processed that day. Tomorrow's clarity is being built tonight, while you're not even watching.